Hey, infinite beings, welcome back to the Infinite Me, where every day we're having conversations about being super infinite right now, right here. So I'm Nat, and over there, it's my sister Mandy. There you go. Yeah, every day we're having conversations about the fact that you're already infinite. You don't need to go out and find it. Don't need to ascend to it. Don't need to do anything other than just acknowledge that you're already infinite and you have those powers already. So, on that note, yesterday, we talked about the law of attraction. So that was an interesting conversation. Obviously, the law of attraction was made very big by The Secret, the movie The Secret, and we feel that that was only part of the story, and it was very much focused on the outside world and attracting things into your life that you want, perhaps your little Ferrari or your big house or all those sorts of things. And I feel like we reached the conclusion that that's actually not what the law of attraction was ever about, that it is a universal principle, so it does exist, but it actually had nothing to do with the outside world at all, because the outside world is actually the illusion. So it had everything to do with your internal vibration and what resonance level you are at the time, and that will go up and down. It will feel like it goes up and down in this human existence. And if you're having a bad day, everyone will have experienced this. If you're having a bad day, pretty much everything goes wrong. So, but if you're in the flow and you feel like something is going right, then everything seems to go right. So it's that sort of thing. That's the sort of principle where it actually applies. So today I'm going to throw Mandy under the bus. We're not actually doing the Infinite Lucky Dip today. I wanted to talk about a topic. She doesn't even know what we're talking about. So normally we do the Infinite Lucky Dip, where we pull out a card each day of a new topic, and that's what we talk about for the day. Today we're going to talk about processing. Because this came up in a conversation I had with a friend of mine last night. And I realized that what we're talking about here in the Infinite Me is the whole premise of what we're talking about is the fact that you're already infinite, which means that there is no process to go through. So I picked her up on some of the messages that she had written on Facebook lately to me, and we had some different conversations, just different things I'd read that and different things she had said in different conversations. And I finally picked her up on it last night, and I said, I've been wanting to talk to you about this. So what's going on for you? So the whole premise of what she was saying was, I'm in a process and I'm not there yet, sort of thing. Like I'm learning how to think like this and to be more infinite. And she's just gone through a pretty full-on breakup. And it was a pretty hard relationship that they had. And now she's actually realizing just how full-on it actually was, and how I guess psychologically abusive it's been. So it's sort of quite interesting now that she's coming out of that process. And this is somebody that's actually been on this consciousness journey for a very long time. But now she feels like she's in the process of, but there is a process. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. I'm not saying it very well. That she's in a process. And I just went, why can't you be infinite right now? Why can't you be empowered right now? It's like, oh, I'm in the process. And I was like, there is no process. Like that's the bullshit we've all bought into in this whole, I feel, in this whole consciousness, spirituality industry, and I will call it an industry, is that we have bought into several belief systems, and they are absolute stories. And I feel that that's what holds us back from stepping into our power right here, right now. It's like, put 2 feet on the ground, be grounded, and feel your empowerment, feel your infiniteness right now. There is no process. So it really got me thinking this morning about the different types of process. Is there a process at all? So is there that process of waking up to your infiniteness? So that's how it came across from this conversation, like that there was a process in play. I'm not infinite yet, but I'm getting there. So it's this whole thing of like, I'm ascending, I'm descending, whatever all the terminology is these days. So that is a process in itself. And so at one day you'll be there. Then there's sort of the process of processing stuff. So I've got all these beliefs coming up, and I'm looking at my childhood, and I'm rebirthing, and I'm doing all these things. And so I'm processing a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And I'm not negating any of that stuff. I do believe that there is emotions have to come to the surface. 100% they do.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Perhaps the way that we've been doing it, and I'm doing a blanket thing here, perhaps the way some of us have been doing it is actually not the most efficient way to be doing it. And that, yes, allowing the emotions to rise to the surface, feeling them, and then releasing them, that doesn't take any more processing than that. That is it. We don't have to go back into this, because otherwise we're going back into the story,
reinforcing it.
Yeah, to the fact that that was even real. When in actual fact, the only thing you were supposed to be getting from the story was actually what you felt. It was all about the feeling, like watching a movie. It's all about the feeling.
Yes.
So then there's that sort of processing. And then is there a process in terms of, I guess, where we come into play a little bit more in the infinite me, because what's really been coming up for me is this reinforcement every day. And for some reason, a year keeps coming up. It's sort of like, if somebody could be in this space, watching these lives, having this message drilled into them for a year, you would have to get to a stage where you went, I am infinite, and you would feel it in every cell of your body, every fiber of your being. You would know how infinite you actually already are.
Yes.
And so there's a process of, I don't know if that's remembering or just moving past the bullshit stories and just waking up. I don't know what that term is, but it does feel like there is, if there's any process going on, it's just that constant hounding reminder of you're already infinite. You don't need to do anything else. Just use it, keep using it. Use it for a year, and then you have to be 100% convinced. Keep seeing evidence of the infinite in your life now, in everything. And then you have to be convinced on every level, your mind level even, and the ego level, that it is real. It's already here. So that's my thing. I was really feeling into this whole process, the whole idea of processing, and I realized there was sort of like 3 types of process or processing going on. And I feel, I just feel that first one I was talking about, that there is a process that we all have to go through on this consciousness journey, actually has been taken over by the ego and completely misconstrued. And it's easy to do. I've fallen for it. I have done years of process.
Absolutely.
So I can talk from experience. But now I actually wonder whether that was ever true. Was I just playing with myself? Was it just a game, an ego game? I don't know. So that's what came up from that conversation.
Yes. Well, I think it is. I think, well, there's many different things, obviously, you've just said, but it does feel like there has been an evolution in consciousness, which we've been speaking about before, that consciousness is always expanding and evolving. And so therefore our processes, if we like, change as well. And the way we approach awakening, and the ego gets clever. And so everything is shifting and changing all the time. So what did work for us maybe 5 years ago now feels really arduous or archaic almost sometimes, like, and you walk away from something that used to actually work quite well for you at the time. So I think there's that as well, just that we outgrow things because our consciousness is expanding too. So but I think there is also that getting caught, the ego definitely does get caught in the I do need to process. And I think some of that kind of feels like it's a natural tendency of our brain. Like, our brain likes to look for logical processes to do. Like, so I think we as humans, we kind of do feel like a step-by-step thing helps us. Like, if we know someone points us in the right direction, then it does help us. But then I think, the ego takes over it. And also then you have got the whole industry, as you said, behind it, that's whether consciously or unconsciously kind of preying on
I'm not saying anything doing it wrong. Like, no one's had the bad intentions. I'm definitely not saying that.
No, I mean, I think there would be definitely some people that are capitalizing on it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think most people have the best intentions when they go into assisting somebody, but then, or developing a modality or teaching workshops and things too. But sometimes if you can only sort of evolve, if you like, at the rate that that person is evolving at as well. So if they're quite limited in their story, in what they think is happening in consciousness, and that's what you're getting the energetic transmission of, if you like, as well. So I think it does come down to that too, whoever your mentors are, and then you probably see as you outgrow a mentor and then you go on to another one that's at a different stage of the journey, if you like, if there is a stage. But I think it does come back to what you said, that the more that we go on and on in our journey too, and the point that we've got to now, I guess, and the reason why we're doing all these talks and called it the infinite me, and keep talking about coming from that infinite space all the time, because it does keep coming back to that. Like, if everything outside of you is an illusion, then everything is an illusion. That's basically all it does mean, is that the ego is creating it all. Like, so any process, like you said, that we feel like we have to do is all part of that, human game that we've created for ourselves. And so I think it does come back to that point you said about remembering. To me, it feels a bit like that, like as an unlimited consciousness created the human game so that it could experience limitation. And so to do that, you had to forget how unlimited you were. So it does feel like a remembrance and coming home to who you truly are. So you just keep uncovering more and more of the things that you've forgotten, and where you've kind of put your power into that separation, that ego that we've talked about before. So as long as we perceive ourselves as separate humans, then the power is always outside of us. And so that's going to always run us until we see it for the truth of what it is, that it is an illusion, and we've got power invested in it. So like you said, the process, if there was a process, as you said, it does definitely feel like it is just about that, reminding yourself of who you truly are, and everything that happens outside of you. So every relationship outside of you, it's only there. You've put it there in your storyline. You've created it to bring up a feeling within you, and that's literally all it's there for. Like, and yes, okay, there's some entertainment value and things like that. Doesn't mean you don't have interactions with people and enjoy your storyline, but the reason that somebody else is there outside of you as an aspect of your consciousness is to bring up a feeling within you, to show where you've still got some power hidden. So if something triggers you, it's not the other person and their story, but that's often where the ego will go. And that's where we feel like we've got to process things all the time, because the mind goes straight into the story and feels like we've got to solve the story and work out what's happening. But if you were to focus, keep bringing it back to yourself all the time and just say, okay, what is that bringing up in me? That's the only thing you have to process, if you like. It's like, is the feeling that's coming up, and what is that triggering you? Sit with that feeling and see it as just a feeling moving through you, but we've put a label on it. And so it is about just releasing that judgment on that feeling coming up, and let it pass through you, and then you claim your power back out of it. And so you just keep reinstating to yourself that you are the infinite consciousness that's animating it all at the end of the day too. So it does feel like the processing is, I don't know, you could say it's a stage on the journey, but we don't have to do it either, I don't think. I think
there's some people that just never go through that stage. Like, I've got plenty of people I could rattle off that they've not gone down and we've talked about this before, you go down the intellectual line of consciousness, and that works equally as well as that heartfelt exploration of consciousness. And you'll generally be one or the other type thing, whether you're more left brain or right brain. And they all end up in the same spot, hopefully at the conclusion that you're already infinite. But there are definitely people that hardly ever process. They don't even know how to process. And even Jodie's a little bit like that. She's always saying that to me. It's like, I don't know, when you talk about this processing, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that is. So it's like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, so she's never really experienced that. She just, I don't know. It's just not been her reality, that whole processing thing. Whereas I have spent literally millions of freaking hours laying on the lounge processing things over the years. Like, it's, I spent literally years doing that. And it's sort of, and I guess that's why this riled me up a little bit, because it's like that will go on forever.
Yeah.
Like looking at your beliefs, processing old things in the past, new things that have come up, new memories, this, that, and the other. Like this person did this, that person did that. It's like you will never run out of stuff to process. So will you ever get to the stage of actually enjoying your life and feeling infinite and feeling like you're the writer of your story and that you actually have the ability to create whatever you want? Like, are we really ever feeling that if we're processing all the time? Because you always feel like a victim. There's got to be a certain mentality of victimization in there, and that something needs to be solved or brought to light, or I don't know, just all the things. And as I said, like 100%, you know, this is what I've done. So I'm certainly not going to go at anyone that's going through that. But
no, we've definitely done that too. I mean, we both have done different modalities that we've learned that definitely just focused on beliefs. Like one of them was specifically about beliefs. Like, so it was like theta healing is all about subconscious beliefs and things like that too. So it was just like
I'm changing
walking. Yeah, we sort of both got to a point with that where I know I literally just woke up one day and just kind of went, this is actually never ending. Like there is no end to this process. And so it's just like, all right, I'm done. Literally just walked away overnight from it, because you know, we literally had a business that was kind of built around running workshops around that together, both you and I and Jen, our friend Jen. So it was kind of just woke up one day,
belief experiences.
Not working anymore. So it's just, there is that evolution, I think, that you go through. You know, if we wanted, I mean, that's just our story. That's the thing too. Like, so everyone will have their own story. So in the case of Nat's partner, Jody, that wasn't part of her reality of processing like that. So it just didn't show up for her like that. So therefore she didn't attend those type of courses or those type of mentors, or like, it's just, you bring into your story. We've put everything in our story for a reason. So, you know, perhaps for Nat and I, it was because we've had similar backgrounds in terms of the teachers, if you like, on some level. But, you know, we've put them there for some reason. Our storyline, maybe it's literally so that we could do this project, The Infinite Me, because it is all about coming back home to ourselves and reminding ourselves, like, no, I'm infinite. Like, I don't need to do all this stuff. So for me, it feels like a lot of that. Yeah, it feels like that. A lot of that history, if you like, has been to bring you to this point to kind of go, you know what? Like, it's not about any of that. Like, it's done all that, and yes, okay, you get some benefit out of doing that, and you do feel like you're evolving, if you like, but it does always feel like that whole separation. That's what was coming up when you were talking, is that I think we just keep reinforcing that separation aspect, that we are not an infinite being, that we are not one consciousness here in a human body just expressing in a unique human body, but it is all one consciousness that's creating it all. So it feels like the more we process stuff, we keep reinforcing that we're not that. Like, it's that
that something was wrong, that it needs fixing or changing or improving, which is always the basis of the ego.
Yes.
Any story that you look at, when you reflect on it, the ego is going to say that needed fixed, changing, or improving. It's never going to be happy with what unfolded, ever. No matter how great you were, how you shone, how you created the $1 million you wanted, like all that stuff. It's like, it's never enough.
Yeah.
And that story will go on forever. So it's
if you keep putting your attention on it.
That's almost, even from a logical perspective, it's highlighting the exact issue of like, then why process anything? Why are we not questioning the whole processing process?
It's true.
Why are we still doing it? And it's almost like, hell, if this infinite me stuff can be a revolution, like, and we have talked about this, in dropping that whole stuff now, that consciousness has changed, not only ourselves, but consciousness itself has changed. And we are now obviously aware that it's possible to just say, I'm already infinite. Otherwise we wouldn't be having these conversations. So it's like, why don't we just go direct to that? Because that's the truth. Like, why are we dancing around anything else? And yes, I'm not
taking the slow road.
Some of those things can help, and they have to help at different times. Sometimes you are so far in the story, you don't even see that there is a story. And we get lost in that again. And so we have to have different tools to pull us back out. And we do have to process stuff. I'm not saying that you don't ever process stuff, But I was processing everything. Like,
Yeah.
and I even had other friends who they just couldn't even have a conversation with them because everything had to be sat back and thought about. Like, I couldn't even get a straight answer from them about what they wanted to do for dinner. I was like, we have to process that. I was like, are you serious? Like, we're getting to a point where we can't even function in the world because we have to process everything, and everything just takes time. And it's sort of like, this is ridiculous. This is not what this is supposed to be about. Like,
well, I think on the whole way, we are, stuff does come up, as you said, and it's like you do have to acknowledge, you know, your story, like in the human game that we're playing. Like, there is stuff that's happened and has caused certain emotions in you, and you know, the ego's got a hold of that, and you know, you've created behaviors and habits and all different things, you know, ways of being based on those. So you do still have to look at those. They will come up, but it isn't about sitting there processing them and trying to change them or fix them. As you said, it is literally just bringing the awareness to them that they were there, seeing what's bringing up in you, and then releasing that feeling without any judgment. Whereas it's just something I heard today, like our friend 𝘍𝐸𝐺 that we've talked about before, who runs Be Free events, and he was talking about this sort of almost very thing, actually, in terms of saying that the only reason people say, oh, I have to sit with that, is because you're in resistance to the thing that's actually coming up. So there's some resistance that's sitting within you that feels like, I've got to sit here and look at this thing a bit more and kind of turn it over a bit. And whereas if you're just literally letting that feeling coming up through you without labeling it or judging it, then there's no resistance to it. It just will pass through your body. Like, it might take a few minutes, or it might take 10 minutes, or it might take half a second. Like, who knows? It would depend on the intensity, or I guess sometimes of the feeling that's coming up.
How attached you are.
But when we say we've got to sit with something, which to me is kind of like, I've got to process this, then you keep reinforcing the story. Like, you keep putting your focus on what's happening in the story, I feel sometimes too. And there is that resistance to letting it go, and just admitting that, no, I'm an infinite being, and this is an illusion I've created, and I've put a lot of power into it, and I'm taking my power back out of that now. So it does keep coming back to that, doesn't it?
And I think in that processing part also stops you from feeling into the decision that's already made. So it did come down to this friend last night. I was asking her, are you doing this or are you doing this? Like, there's a decision to be made about which way you're going to go about something. And she said, I don't really know which one's ego and which one's my intuition. I said, okay. So we went through this whole process. And I just kept reinforcing the fact that the decision actually had already been made, and all she had to do was tune into that and just say what it was, like state whatever that was. But because of this whole process thing that we're supposed to go through, it was almost like she was stopping herself from seeing what that was really clearly. You hear this so many times from different people, and I've done it too, where you feel so mixed up because you really can't determine between what's intuition and what feels true for you and what actually is ego. So it's all just bundled together and in that moment, and there's just no separation between the two type thing. So you could go either way on it, but the fact is the decision is actually already made by your infinite self, and you just do have to tune into it. So it's almost like removing, if you actually just make the decision in that moment to say, okay, I can see what's going on. I'm not buying into the process anymore. I am going to sit here until the decision that's already been made comes through to me. I am already infinite, and I already have the answer. And you just sit and wait until it comes. So you're not processing, you're allowing, you're giving it space, which is a really different way of doing stuff.
Yes, definitely is. I think it said, like, the decision has already been made, and a lot of the time when we do tune into that and give it the space, like you said, we actually do have some awareness of what, you know, our intuition has already said to us. But as you said, the ego kind of can mix it all up a bit and gets all a bit jumbled sometimes. I've definitely have been in that space before. So
or there's the reason why you don't want to admit it. Like,
that's what I think. I was just going to say, it's almost like
the decision is.
it's almost like you do. If I look back at the times that I've told myself that I'm really confused, which was definitely a ego pattern that I played for a long time, about I don't really know what I want to do, and but I always did know. That's the thing. If I really tuned in, it's like I did actually know, but then what I thought I had to do to make that happen was so big and so out there that I didn't think I could do it. So if I just keep myself confused, I never have to actually admit that I know what I want to do, because it feels scary, to do it. Like, so from the little limited me is like, I don't know how to do it, but I was asking the wrong question. That's the thing. So it's like, I don't want to, you stay in that space because you're asking the wrong question. So it's not about how do I do it or what's this going to happen from that. It's just like, it's got nothing to do about that. It's just admit what that feeling is that's moving through you, like the decision has been made, and say yes to that decision, and then let it go. Like, and then it will show up how it's going to show up. So you'll be moved to do something. Something will come to you from the outside. Your story starts to match the decision that you've made. But yeah, I think we do feel like we've got a process, because it does keep us in the space of not having to do something about it. Like it's
quite a safe space, isn't it? The processing space. It's like it's buying you time.
Yeah.
Before you have to do something or make a decision or you have to do something.
I think absolutely that's what it is. Like if we're already on
that looping thing, because I'm just sitting with stuff now. Like I've got to, and I'm not saying you don't ever take time out. We've talked about that many times. Go and have as many naps as you like.
Oh, definitely.
But from a creative space, not from I'm here to process a million things, and I'm going to sit for the next 4 days, while I just let everything, process away, sort of thing, before I can do anything. That was my big one, is that I can't make a step because I've got too much stuff coming up right now, type thing.
Yeah.
So it does feel quite different, that space. There's something else I was going to say. Oh, it's something I went through with Jodie the other day, because she kept saying she didn't know the answer. And I said, yes, you do. And then she was getting the shits because I was saying, she was looking at the surface level of it. I was saying, she's saying, but I don't know the answer. Like, I don't know what it is. And I was like, yes, you do. And she's like, well, I don't. Otherwise I'd know what it was, but I don't know what it is. So it's like, okay, I can see the layers going on here. You're looking at the surface level of, it's not in my mind right now. Like I couldn't actually write it down what the answer is. And I was like, no, the intuitive part of you, your infinite part of you, does know what the answer is. So then it was sort of saying to her, because you wanted sort of a process of that, sort of like, well, how do I get to that? And I was like, well, perhaps just ask. Like your infinite self is there. If you're feeling somehow separate to it right now, you're in confusion, obviously, you're in storyland, you're obviously in ego. So just ask. Like, ask your infinite self, like, what's the answer? What is the decision? But then it was just making me think, while you were just talking, it's like, maybe you don't need to know the decision or what the answer is. Maybe you just say, I say yes to whatever decision has been made, and I'm not aware of what it is right now, but I'm willing to take action on whatever that decision is. So just give me the next steps. I don't even need to know what it is. And then it'll become obvious.
The ego gets I know this was a big pattern for me, about the ego needing to know what's going to happen all the time. And so therefore you don't take any action because you need to know exactly how it's all going to play out. So that's a very convenient story for never moving on with anything, which is what I got stuck in for a very long time. So definitely know that game. So it's kind of, I get what you're saying, but you don't actually need to know
what the decision is.
And usually, on an intellectual level, we feel like we need to know before we can move, but that's not true either. But also, I think what I was getting from what you're saying too is that we feel like we do need to know in that moment. Like as soon as we ask, like it's got to come. We think it's got to come to us like straight away in like a voice in our head, or we have an expectation of how that's going to actually show up as well. Sometimes, so that can be in the way of it. But also, maybe it just means you've got to actually give it some space, like, and some pondering time for it to actually come through to you as well. So maybe you don't actually literally know what the decision is right now, but it's maybe because you haven't created any space around it, because you keep asking the question of like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So there is no space. Like when you think about that feeling when you're sitting in that, I don't know, and your mind's just chattering at 1,000,000 miles an hour, it definitely doesn't feel like you have any space to hear your intuition. So that's exactly what is going on half the time, is that we haven't actually created the conditions for more space. So maybe that means, okay, we've got to take out some time during our day to go and sit outside for 20 minutes and do nothing, like, and actually just clear our mind and ground a bit and just be out in nature and ask the question again, but then let it go, like not being attached to getting your answer straight away, because that's where the ego gets a hold of that too and thinks, oh, well, I haven't got the answer, I better step in and come up with something now. And yeah, that's, you go down rabbit holes when you start doing that type of thing. So yeah, I think a lot of the time we just, maybe in our world these days is instant gratification. We expect everything's going to happen straight away too, and maybe it will take a week to get that answer that you think you're looking for, or feels like it's coming through you. Maybe it will take a week to tap into whatever that thing is, but just staying open to it, like you said, and letting it go and just moving anyway with what's inspiring you at the time. Keep following that, and then eventually something will drop in, like you'll see something from the outside world, or you'll hear a little voice, or you'll be writing and something will come through in your journal or something. Like, you just don't know how it's going to come to you when you're ready to, when consciousness is ready to drop it into your world, it will drop in. So,
and I feel the other really important thing is to watch your languaging. So when you keep saying, I don't know what it is, then you don't know what it is. And
that's what you're creating.
You still won't know what it is. And 2 days later, you still won't know what it is, because you don't know what it is. If you're creating your reality, you really have to watch your language. But if you sat there and
that was what I got caught in. That was definitely what I got caught in. Constantly
you are going to keep creating that. The infinite self of you keeps going, all right, you want to play that game? Cool. All right, you'll never know what it is then. So you got to be so onto it. And it's like, but if you sat there and you went, I do know what this is. I actually do. And you just sit there and you just go about your day. And eventually, guess what? You are going to know. Because you keep saying you're going to know, So, and that's what's been happening, I guess, in some of this project as well. Like, some things are starting to drop in, but not a lot of things are dropping in yet. And we're sort of just, I guess, seeing a mind map of how we might progress from here. And so I watched myself do this yesterday, and I think I was even talking to you off camera and stuff, and sort of going, not really sure how we're going to progress with here. And I'm just like, let's write down the stuff that we are definite about right now, that we do know, that has come to our awareness, that feels really true for us. So we wrote those down. And they're still like, I can't see the whole process. I was like, all right, I know this. I know it. There's something there. I know it. And then this morning, I haven't even spoken to you about it yet. When we get off camera, we'll talk about it. But I read it. It actually was sitting right in front of me when I read something this morning. And I was like, that's it. That's how it all fits together. And the penny dropped. Because I kept saying, and we both kept saying, it's there. Like, the map, the path is there. If we keep moving forward with the parts that we do know and that we're definite about right now, the rest will keep showing up. Like, we've just got to keep saying it's there.
Yes.
Very different sort of experience to saying, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that fits in with what you're saying there too is the languaging, like you said, but the type of questions we ask too. So we need to be asking more empowering questions instead of asking how is this going to happen and things like that. It's sort of, we have to shift around the type of questions we're asking so that they are sort of more solution oriented rather than looking at the problem. Like, that's because the ego tends to make us ask problem based questions about how do I solve this thing, like why is this happening to me, like those, they just don't lead you anywhere, those questions, except more ego or more story. So we need to be shifting them around to more empowering questions, like you said, I do know what this is, so show me what this is. Like,
what would you like this to be? Like, even ask the project itself, what would you like to be, project? Like, how would you like to be expressed right now?
Or something like, what about this am I not seeing right now? Or
what else is
if a feeling's coming up for you, like, what is this feeling trying to show me, rather than saying you're trying to get rid of that feeling, like asking, what are you trying to show me right now? It wouldn't be here if it wasn't trying to show you something. So it's
asking a feeling or a story, why are you here? That's a really empowering question. What are you here to show me?
Because you've put that into your story at the end of the day, so it's all your creation. So
now you're not fighting it anymore. You're a friend with it, and it's going to show you something. You're seeing how it's supporting you. It's so powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
We got Sharon in the house. Hey, Sharon.
Hello, Sharon.
I felt like that in Paris, and I think I spoke to Nat and Jodie about how I couldn't feel where I was meant to go next. Yeah, I could think where I'd like to go, but nothing felt right. Then as soon as I started to just move forward, I got a phone call. I made a sharp left turn. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that's the key thing, Sharon, is like, if you don't have all the answers right now, and sometimes you don't, like, it's, even if you were to swing a pendulum, which can give you a yes or no answer, sometimes it just sits in there because the decision actually hasn't been made yet. So you don't know. That's why you can't get a read on it, because it actually hasn't been made yet. And we can be a little bit ahead of the game in some ways of like trying to get an answer to something that hasn't been decided in the infinite space yet. So, you know, there's other things unfolding or whatever, like you don't know what's going on. But that whole idea of moving forward with what you already know and what does feel true in this moment, because we've always got something to move forward with in this moment. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, because a lot of people will say, I can't move on a project because I don't have X, Y, and Z done. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. This has got to be in place. I've got to have $1 million. You talked about this yesterday. I've got to have the $1 million first before I can do something. And it's like, you have all the resources you need right in this very moment to do the next step. And that's all you're supposed to be doing. Yes. And then the resources will come for the next step. So if you sort of keep doing that, then guess what? All the resources are there for every step. Yeah. When it's time to take that step. But we get so far ahead of ourselves in trying to plan everything before we make a start. We end up doing nothing because we can't see how anything is going to unfold. We can't see where we have the resources. And it's like, well, of course you wouldn't do anything in that stage. Like, it'd be impossible. You and I can't go out and put the center together for the infinite me that we've been talking about, because we don't have the resources to do that. I was like, well, of course we don't, because that's not our next step. We're not meant to do that right now.
Yes. Or there's, you know, a million other steps that come before that too, that could go into the process of building a big thing. Like, obviously there is a time thing that's involved, you know, as well in the human game. We do have the time, you know, paradigm that we play with here. So like there is little steps that have to take place first. Like, okay, we design it, or we talk to somebody about building it, or, you know, so there's all these other little steps. You just don't go immediately to building a center. Like, it's kind of, you know, there's other bits involved. But the thing I was just getting with what you were talking about before and what Sharon had commented, it's like the ego kind of gets a hold of those type of things, and we feel like we need to sort out those plans because our mind is telling us, well, we need to know what's happening, you know, like, oh, we need to know what's happening in 3 days' time. Yeah. To make that plan, because then that other plan is dependent on that plan, and so I need to hear back from that person first. And I mean, this comes in sometimes when you're house sitting, for example, and you're trying to line up dates with things. But I'm very aware now of getting caught up in that space of kind of going, oh, well, I've got a gap here. We need to start working out what we're doing. And it's just like, I don't need to know. It's 2 weeks away. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It's not affecting me right now of what I'm doing in this very moment. So like, it will, as you said, like the thing will drop in when it's meant to drop in, and without fail, it always works itself out. Like, something presents itself, and sometimes it's only a day later, and sometimes it's a week later, and sometimes it's 24 hours before. It doesn't actually really matter when it drops in, but it's that letting go of the needing to know all the time and fixing it all, because then it is a little us that's trying to plan everything all the time. We're not leaving space for the infinite potential to come in and, you know, give us the all better option that we've spoken about many times before. Yeah,
and the fun stuff. And Sharon is a master at this, I've got to say. When she's about to come over to your place, like she's turning up, you know, the next day, it's sort of like, how are you getting there? I don't know, I haven't booked a flight yet. It's like, okay, all right. So what time are you coming in? I don't know. I'm lucky enough that I don't need to plan too far ahead. And I feel like I can leave myself completely open to what comes next. And it's the most fun way to live. You're 100% right, Sharon. Like, if we can just let ourselves be in the unknown more and not make plans too far ahead, then that's where the fun comes in.
We do get to play with it all then, don't we? We're allowing the infinite part of ourselves to come in and surprise us and make up some really fun stuff for us.
Yeah, so true.
Yep.
That's really cool. Yeah, thanks for that, Sharon, because I do feel like you're the epitome of what we're talking about right now. You are so in the moment in your world travels too. So if Sharon can be doing it around the world and organizing herself to get around the world almost a day or two ahead, then everyone can be doing that in their lives very easily. So
yeah,
it's cool. Very cool. All right. Well, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about the processing? Where are you processing still? Do you need to process anymore? Have we shifted that for you, perhaps? And what will it look like in the future? What would it look like if you didn't have to process at all?
yes.
And you could just be infinite in this moment.
What a relief that would be.
Is there a relief in actually just hearing those words? Yeah, that it's possible to do that. That's really cool. All right.
Yes.
Well, we're back to
Thanks for joining us.
Scheduled programming tomorrow with our infinite lucky dip. Thanks for participating, Mandy, in the infinite moment of not knowing what we're going to talk about. And,
that's all right.
That was good.
That was
I'm glad we talked about that today because it was really coming up very strongly for me this morning to talk about this.
Yes.
And I do feel that like this pretty much sums up what we're talking about in the infinite me here. Is that no need for any processing. You're already infinite. And we just have to acknowledge that. And then when we acknowledge it, we can use it.
Yes.
When you know you've got something, you can use it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. All right. We'll check in again tomorrow. Have another little chat about something. Who knows what.
Yeah.
And, cool. We'll see you then.
All right. See you tomorrow.
No processing now. Infinite beings.